There are tons and tons of Greek city-states. You know, this map just has a couple of them, but if we look at another map, we'll see even more going on. Our primary focus on our studies are going to be Athens and Sparta, but a lot of these governments that we're going to see are going to wind up popping up in many of the Greek city-states. This is the map that you're used to doing. So we had our do now question, what is a city-state? And Khan so brilliantly told us about how it was a city that controlled the surrounding area. There's a city, the textbook definition, with its own traditions, government, and laws. So it's a city that's its own country, because it has its own government, independent. So each of these city-states have their own king or, oligarchy or tyrant. So it's both a separate city and independent country. Remember, the word state can be used for country. Okay? Now, like I said, the two most important are Athens and Sparta, and that's what our focus is going to be on for this unit. So I have a question. Why are we having an ancient Greece unit? Why don't we have an ancient Athens unit, an ancient Sparta unit, an ancient Corinth unit, an ancient Ephesus unit? What do these people share? Why do we lump them all together as the Greeks? What do they share? What do you guys think? What do you think, Mr. Summers?
A similar culture.
All right, similar culture. Very good. What else do they share? What else do they share? Ooh, Eliza's got language. Khan said it too, and Eliza said religion. Exactly. We've got the same language, which is Greek, and we have the same culture and religion. Fantastic, guys. So because they have all of these similarities, really, the only thing that's preventing them from being unified is that they are physically separated. Remember, just like our song starts, mountains and water divide. So because of the mountains, because there is an archipelago, because there's peninsula after peninsula and isthmus and all of these things with mountains all over it, they're physically separated. It would be really hard for King Ivan to rule all of Greece and to make sure everyone was following his orders. So they're separate city-states, but with the same culture, same language, same religion. Now, they'll obviously have differences in this culture. We'll see Athens and Sparta are very different, but they are still going to have a lot in common. Any questions or comments at this point, my cherubs? Okay, so the rise of democracy. Now, like we said, each city-state has its own government, okay? And there are going to be several different kinds of governments that are going to develop within the Greek city-states. First is the monarchy. You're all probably familiar with monarchies. We're going to talk about them in the next slide a little bit more, but this was one you probably have heard of. This next one, oligarchy, might be new to you. An oligarchy, instead of having one really powerful ruler, you have a group of rulers. Tyranny is something also probably new to you, and that's when Manic says, I can be running this show better than that last guy, and he takes over. He gets support of the military and takes power by force, just like we sing in our song. And finally, democracy. We're going to get to oligarchy, tyranny, and democracy our next class, so Thursday. And you should hopefully be somewhat familiar with democracy as we live in a democratic republic. But let's first talk about monarchy for a little bit. One of the things I really enjoy about this lesson is we get to talk about the Greek language. We've seen this mono or monos, meaning one, before. Where have we used the mono in one of our vocabulary words? What word have we been saying an awful lot, particularly when we were studying the Hebrews? Yes, Evelyn, my dear?
Monotheism.
Wow, my tea is super hot. And yes, monotheism. Oh, I just burned my tongue. Ouchies. So, monotheism. Or if, you guys are probably too young for this, but I know Miss Rubel would know, like if you're going and listening to mono or stereo, one channel or two. And then we get the word, so monos, so one, and then archon, which means leader. And so what happens is we have ruling power in the hands of one leader. So we have, literally, if you look at the Greek, one leader, and so we have a king. Now, you don't have to use the word king. It could be an emperor, it could be a queen, it could be a prince. Russia used the word czar, but it's the idea of power in the hands of one person. And typically, this power is passed on through heredity, meaning your family. Riley Pepper didn't become king because he was the smartest, strongest, bravest, most talented. Riley Pepper became king because his daddy was king, who was king because his daddy was king, who was king because his dad is king. And guess who the next king is going to be after Riley Pepper? It's going to be Riley Pepper II. So that's monarchy. Ruling power in the hands of one, passed on through heredity, typically. Doesn't always have to be, but it's typically heredity. Now, one interesting thing is we don't have any Greek city-states that are ruled solely by queens. Now, that doesn't mean the kings don't get married and have wives, and that those wives have some power. We just don't have any situations like when we studied ancient Kush that had queens in power, because many other civilizations, when we get to China, we'll talk about a queen or two. England, it's Queen Elizabeth right now. So there's, or Elizabeth II, excuse me. So there are lots of other civilizations that do, but Greeks, we don't have any instances of just having the queen. That's actually going to be our notes for today. Like I said, it was short and sweet. Are there any questions?